In this position, it's black to play, and let's evaluate it. I'm gonna set up the game with Nicholas while you guys take a look at this one. So just forgive me for going out of the window. I will be looking at the chat though. I just really want to show this example. All right, I think I did something wrong. Okay, there it is. Cool. Obama 8 my changes on point. Bishop f8, extremely logical. So that's a logical move, which is probably based on calculation. But how did you evaluate the position? Do you think that any side has a material superiority? Space is a minor factor, but you know we could consider space. All right, he says better for black. Knight is trapped, so it's concrete. But before we look at the knight being trapped, let's just evaluate the position, right? Because sometimes surprising things can jump out here. Like, the fact may be that the knight is trapped, but that's not how we evaluate the position. For example, doesn't it come into play that black has a pair of bishops? They have two bishops. We have a single bishop. Another thing that comes into play. White has a very active minor piece. This knight can take up the d5 post. So it's not all that transparent. But the reason I was showing this one is actually because it's funny. My opponent resigned here as black. He just up and resigned. And we've been playing the game for just a couple minutes, it felt like, and I was really uncertain about it. But I took my handshake and I wrote my 1 point next to my name. Then I looked at this position. I thought, how am I going to get my knight out of e8? I did have a plan, though. My plan was that after bishop f8, I would play a4 with extreme complication. This game was from, I guess, 2017. I was playing even more like crazy, stupid chess back then. Definitely not positional like the way I'm trying to develop my game. I was always about the concrete details. I guarantee you I did not evaluate this position. However, I think if my opponent evaluated this position without even looking for the knight trap, they would not have resigned here if they just evaluated it for like a split second. Let's pretend that they lose the d6 pawn. What would the evaluation be of this position with no d6 pawn? Like, let's pretend that they play like an active move, like bishop e6, and I just take that pawn. What's the evaluation here after like maybe rook d7? Maybe black is actually blessed for losing the pawn. See, this backward pawn is rarely consequential in these positions. Activity is much more important than material, especially just a pawn. These top players, they just give pawns left and right. It's actually the case that here white is escaping after a4, but for very concrete reasons. So in this position, I guess you would try to trap the knight with a move like maybe bishop e6, but after pawn takes b5, I guess pawn takes b5, knight takes d6, rook d7. I think I should sacrifice a bishop like this, if it's even really a sacrifice. Because here the rook can't take it, so it'll be like rook takes d6. But then after rook takes d6, if they take the rook, then this knight is hanging. So it kind of just becomes a flurry of tactics. But definitely it's not a resignable position. I think that my opponent resigned because they evaluated the position incorrectly. Maybe not that they got the evaluation wrong, but that they didn't go about the process of evaluating the position in a good way. Because even in the worst case scenario, this is really perfectly fine for black. C2